Hey everyone, Caleb with Antique Book Collective, and today I'm getting to you guys with a video that I've been meaning to do and that I have basically been requested to do a couple times, and it's something that you guys really want to do if you're listing antique books on eBay or just eBay antiques in general on eBay. It's a really important skill, and that is how what minimum requirements you need and how you need to do that when you are making your listing to make sure that the listing is compelling enough to get you sales. Otherwise, you're just going to be listing books that are going to sit there forever because no one really knows what they're buying because your quality of your listing itself is not high enough. So this is a whole sort of genre of information that you really need to look up on, is how to list properly, because otherwise if you're not listing your things properly on eBay, they're just going to sit there and you're going to have to go back and edit them, and that's just going to be a waste of time because the time it takes for you to edit a whole listing might be enough time for you to go and make like 3 more listings, especially if you have to come back every couple of weeks because you're testing how to do it and what works for you and all that sort of stuff. So I'm just going to try to save you guys all that time, and I'm going to tell you guys what I recommend as your absolute minimum for what you should do for listing your antique books. Again, it's just the minimum. I know that there are some people that get by doing less, but what I have found is this is the minimum that I can do and still get good sales that actually turn over, and I don't have stock just sitting on my shelves for hours and hours and years. So this, again, guys, is just what I recommend as the minimum. I personally do a lot more than this, but again, as I've said 3 times now at least, this is just the minimum. So these things are just 4 different things that you really need to focus on. There are, of course, as I've been saying, other things that you should think about, but these are the main 4 things. So one is a great title, the other is good photos, the other one is a good price, and finally we have good description. And with those 4 things set, I'm going to dive right on in to really describe them further. So first things first, so you want a great title for your books, for your book descriptions. And this is just going to be your eBay listing title. So what you want when you're listing your books is to say the title. I know this is obvious. So for me on this book, the book is The Longest Journey. You also want to put in the author's name. So this is E.M. Forster. E.M. Forster. And the year for this one is 1955, which you can see right here, which I know you guys can't see because my camera's not great, but it says right there. And those are the 3 things that you have to have in your title. Anything beyond that is just extras. I recommend having all the extras you can. So the extras I would include on this particular book is that it's a hardcover. It's a cloth hardcover. And something else that I am really excited about this particular book for is it actually is signed by the author, and it actually has his signature a couple times, which I thought was sort of neat. So I'm going to hold it up for you guys to see. So that's what E.M. Forster's signature looks like, and then he did a little initials right here on this part. So I thought that was actually really cool, and when I picked this book up, I actually did not think that was the author's name. I thought it was just someone went in and scribbled. I was like, oh, that's a little weird. And then I looked a little closer and I was like, oh, after I bought it, and I was like, oh, that's a signed book. Oh, okay, that's pretty cool. So I'm rather happy with that. That actually does help my value a whole lot. But that's stuff for another video at another time. I'm probably going to make an entire video of me just talking about this book and listing this book so you guys can really see what I do. But again, guys, this is just a rough overview on what I recommend. So again, guys, what you want to do is get the title, the author's name, and the date. Those are the 3 absolute requirements when you are listing antique books. And the date that you do has to be the date of the printing, not when it was first published, but it has to be the actual printing date. So for me, this book, it was first published in 1907. They did a pocket edition in 1947. And then this is a reprint of the pocket edition, and this is 1955. So what you say is this one's 1955. And sometimes this right here is the title page. Sometimes it will have a year stamped down here, and that year down here is not always correct. So you actually do have to go over to the copyright date, and the copyright date does look different in a lot of books, but it's generally on the other side of the title page. So let me just do this for you guys to see. Forgive me as I'm wasting some time here. All right, so we have the title page, and then right after it, you have the copyright page. That's generally how it goes, and the latest year that you will see on the list will be when this book was printed. So it might have 50 different years posted on it, but the very last one, the most recent one, will be when the book was printed. That's just how they do it. So that is what you guys want to do. You do not want to list a book with the incorrect year on it, because that can get you in all sorts of trouble with eBay. It'll make your buyer mad. It'll make you mad, and it's just not a great thing at all. So be sure to check that stuff out. And the longer you do this, you'll be able to actually look at a book and decide if the year that you're seeing is actually correct. So I actually have some books that say they're 1771, and I've looked at them, and despite it saying that, and despite it saying there's no reprinting stuff on it, I'm pretty sure these books are actually, those particular ones are actually a reprint of the originals and were just made to look like them. So it's not really a counterfeit, but it sort of is not going to be sold for the same original price. So those books are, just as a rough example, not what you want to pay attention, not what you want to be selling and listing on your store, because there is the chance of people misinterpreting things. You'll have to like say outright that it's a reprinting, all that sort of stuff, but that's all for another video at another time. This book here is not a reprinting. It is fully 1955 original. For me, since I've been doing this for years, I can tell that this book's from 1955. You guys will get the feel for it eventually. Things that I look for deciding the age of a book is like the color of the book, the feel of the book. Like you can feel how old it is sometimes just by rubbing the cover. You can tell by the pages how discolored they are, how they smell. Get your nice whiff of book in there. Get a little high if you're a reader. Sorry, I had to do that. A little weird, so it sticks out for you YouTubers that like your things. It's weird, but you want to get to the point that you guys can really tell what that is. And older books also have a heavier weight than newer books do, so that's another thing that you guys want to keep in mind. But I know that's all a lot to say that you just need a great title for your books. I know that's a very long way of saying it, but you guys want to make sure your titles are very accurate. So with that said, the next thing that you want to do is get good photos of your book that you are listing. So what is required for good photos? What are we talking about here? So while good photos encompasses having an actual good image quality, so for me, I couldn't do it on this webcam because this webcam that I am using is not wonderful, as you guys know. But with my phone that I use, the image quality is great. This is just a Samsung J3 or something like that from 2017, so it's an older phone. It's been around for a little while. It's gone through quite a lot. I feel sorry for that little guy, but it's still a very good quality camera that I have on it. Most cameras, I would say, in phones like after maybe 2012, maybe even a little bit before that, like most cameras on most phones will be more than sufficient to get you really good photos for your things. However, with that said, there are four things that you guys need to get photos of when you're doing your eBay listings. So these four things are, first off, the cover. So I know it's not too exciting because there are some books where the front cover is just like blank like this, but sometimes you'll get them and they'll have a nice little emblem. Sometimes it'll have the author's signature like sort of going on. Other times it'll have a full image, lots of stuff like that. But you want to get a picture of the front cover and get a picture that's like straight on, so that's the full focus. You don't want a whole lot of stuff going on in the background either, so holding up the thing for a webcam, this is not what you would use for your eBay listing. The next thing that you guys want to get is a photo of the spine. So what I recommend is just get your thing standing upright and make sure that the title up here is sticking out and is easily to read. You got your author's name, and then you got your publisher down here. That's what most books will have. That's what you guys want to have showing. And in addition to having it so you can read that, you also want to just have it so buyers can see the quality of the spine, because spines are something that gets really torn up with the older books. So that is something they definitely want to be looking at. So guys, trust me, you will get a lot of sales just by showing the spine of your book. I don't know exactly how I ended up finding that one out, but that is something that I stumbled across after listing and selling antique books for a couple of years, is people really like seeing the spines. Another thing that you really want to get a photo of is the title page, which I mentioned before. The title page is what's going to have the title in big text. It'll have the author's name, have some publisher info, and again, it might have the year printed down there in the bottom. And then the next thing, which is so stinking important, guys, is have a photo of the copyright page. The copyright page is basically, so think about it in terms of like collectibles. So collectibles, they have like the whole certificate of authenticity going on. So your copyright page in many ways is sort of like your certificate of authenticity. Like, no, it isn't going to be as high of quality of one, but it is something that buyers of books will be looking for. They want to actually be able to see the copyright page and see, oh yeah, this book is in fact printed in this year that this seller is stating. You can, of course, say whatever you want for the copyright year. So I could say, oh yeah, this book is from 1812. But if I get a picture of the copyright page, the buyer's going to know for a fact that I'm full of it. However, if I don't show the buyer the copyright page, they might think that I'm lying, they might think I'm hiding stuff, or they might just think I don't know what I'm doing. So when you are selling antique books, be sure to get a picture of the copyright page. Of course, they aren't always there. They don't always have the years printed in them. I have had it several times where that happens. There are even some that have Roman numerals in them, and sometimes, believe it or not, the Roman numerals that they put in for the year of the copyright date isn't correct Roman numerals. Like, they have it, there is a specific way of how you're supposed to do it, and I've actually had a few books where I'm like, that's not right, you just did your Roman numeral wrong, that's just weird, sorry pal. And it's sort of funny doing that, but you guys, as you do this, you'll eventually get to the point that you can read Roman numerals and get pretty good at that. It's pretty easy, it's pretty straightforward, and you'll see the same sort of years pretty common. What I find, guys, is when I'm dealing with books that are like older than 1940, there's going to be a few more Roman numerals in it, and once I am dealing with books that are like older than 1850-ish, it's like going to be a lot of those are Roman numerals as their years. I don't know why that's how they did it back then, but that is how they did it, so that's something that you guys will have to adapt to. But if that sounds scary to you guys, seriously, just look it up on your phone. So let's just say the year is CCX something, 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 you know? So you can actually just type in those things that you see as the Roman numeral, type it into Google, and then it'll actually spit right on out whatever the correct year is, like it'll translate it over. It's pretty straightforward. It's a little bit of a time suck, so that's why I recommend learning Roman numerals enough that you can do it, but that is more of a pro skill that you guys will get in the later years of you doing it. So next stuff though, so we have those 4 photos that I recommend, but there are other photos as well that I do recommend. So these are not the minimum requirements, so the 4 were just the front, spine, title page, and copyright. So the next things that I recommend, guys, though, just as like extras that are really nice to have, is get a photo of the book open, have it so the buyer can see the text in the book, have a photo of the back cover. The back cover is nice sometimes. And I love, personally, getting a picture of like the spine, sorry, not the spine, the text block. So basically the same angle that you guys are looking at right now, this is a photo that I like getting. And this way the buyer can actually see how the pages look. They can see if any pages are loose. They can see basically everything they want to see from this top angle. Sometimes I'll even get a picture of the bottom angle, but that's not as required as the top one. That's just what I have found. People really like getting those particular photos. And if you have any damage, that is stuff you want to get photos of. And if you are like me with this particular book, I'm going to say that this book has the author's signature, because it does, and I'll be sure to get a good photo of the author's signature. So I'll have a picture of the title page, but then I'll have a close-up photo of the author's signature, because that is going to be a large selling point for this particular book. And next thing that you guys want to do, so this is the next minimum requirement, is you want to have a good price. And to get a good price on your book, you have to know the comps. So just to run comps on eBay is going to be more than sufficient for you. If you can't find any comps like whatsoever, you can check out the other printings of this particular book. So for me, there are no other versions of this on eBay. I couldn't find any, not even in the sold category. So this is the only one that I know of that's 1955. However, there are books from the other printings of this particular book that I can base things off of. So I'm actually going to be doing that. So the other comps ranged anywhere from the high of like $700 for the first edition down to like, I think like $100 or so for one of the other editions. However, since this book's signed, I am going to be able to get a good amount of money for it. I don't know exactly what I'm going to be charging for it just yet, but this is the only one that is signed on eBay, so I'm going to be able to charge basically whatever I want for it. Like, I don't think I'll charge $700 for it, but I do think I might charge maybe up to $300, probably more down to like $200-ish or lower. But again, I haven't really decided yet. But guys, when you're doing your listings, be sure to run comps. And if you can't find any other printings of your books, be sure to just look up other books from that same year or that same decade and sort of think, okay, so this is a recipe book from 1865. I'm going to find other recipe books from 1860s in general, and I'm going to run my comps off of that. And that's sort of what you guys want to do. Like, it won't be the best way that'll make sure you'll get great sales every single time. You won't get the most money you can get all the time, but it will make sure that you can actually list the book. Otherwise, you might just hang on to it forever, waiting for someone else to come up and try to sell the book, and so you can get a comp. So basically, guys, you have to use like an estimated, your best estimate, be like, okay, I think this book is worth this much, and you'll get better and better at guessing about how much a book is worth the longer you're doing this. For me, since this book is something that I am just barely looking at, I'm Seriously, guys, I haven't looked at this much since I bought it, so I don't really know too much about it, but I'm thinking I could definitely get at least $100 for this one, and that is just because I've been doing this for so long and the fact that it's signed by the author. If it was not signed by the author and it was just the 1955 version, I would say I'd be selling this for $30 to $40, but since it's the only one that's signed by the author on eBay, I'm going to get a nice premium for that. With all that said, though, on to the next little bit for what you should have as your minimums, and that is a good description. So a good description, guys, must have at least 2 sentences. So these 2 sentences, one should be of the cover's condition. So cover condition, you say if it's like all torn up, you say if it's got like fraying. So like on these cloth covers, they frays sometimes, sort of like an old t-shirt. On leather ones, the leather will start chipping if it gets too dry and too old. Sometimes you'll have the spine ripped off. Sometimes you'll have the covers ripped off. It's not great stuff, but that is stuff that you want to tell the buyers. Next thing that I like to do is I like to tell the buyers about the text block itself. So text block is just all the pages in the book, and I like to say if all the pages are there, if they're all accounted for, if any of them are loose. If they're not loose, I say that they are still tightly bound to the binding, basically. And if the binding is tight binding itself is like when you can only open the book this far before there's resistance. That's something else you guys definitely want to outline. Tight binding means that the book's like probably in very, very, very good condition. And those are the 2 minimum sentences that you guys should do, is just a quick thing on cover, quick thing on the page condition, and also not just page condition, but also the condition of the text itself. So if it has writing through it, you have to mention that it has writing all the way through it. And personally, I like to say if it's pen or pencil or something like that, because that does affect the value depending on what it is in a lot of people's eyes. So other sentences that I personally recommend you guys do that is on top of the minimum is I like to have an overall summary of the book at the very top of my listing. So I say book is in amazing overall condition, something like that. And it's just something that I put in a little personality in, and I try to be as honest as I can, and I just summarize things in just a sentence or 2. I'm like, yeah, book's in amazing condition, especially for its age. The fact that it's signed is so cool. This, and this. And that's stuff that you guys want to outline. It's really easy, it's really straightforward, and it's really fast. The next sentence that I highly recommend you guys do is one at the very bottom. And just at the bottom say, feel free to contact the seller with any questions, with any comments, with any offers, that sort of stuff, and you'll get a lot more engagement from your buyers, and more engagement means more sales most of the time. Of course, the larger you get, the less time you will have to do these individual things, so you might not want to have this if you have a book business that has 10 million books, but for me, I'm a little bit short of 10 million books, so I like to put in the time, and it really helps me get some more sales. So with all that said and done, guys, again, the 4 things I recommend for your eBay listing is a great title, great photos, great price, and a great description. There are, of course, lots of other things that you can do to make those great things even better. There are requirements that eBay has for what you need to put in to sell the thing a little bit faster. There's the shipping stuff, all these other things. But again, guys, those are the 4 main things that you have to make sure that your book sells for the best price it can, sells as fast as it can, and to make sure that your buyers can actually find your book. Because if you have terrible quality listing that doesn't have any photos, doesn't have a great title, all that sort of stuff, your buyers might never actually find your listing. So with all that said and done, guys, those are the 4 things. Be sure to write them down. Again, I'm just going to read them off so you guys know them. So great title, great photos, great price, and great description. And as a quick summary of those things, a great title includes the date of printing, the title, and the author. The great photos includes a picture of the cover, picture of the spine, picture of copyright page, and a picture of the title page. The great price that you guys are supposed to do, again, the great price depends on you running comps. You have to run comps. Don't just pull a number out of your butt. That's how you end up either not making any money or never ever selling, which at the end of the day, make sure you don't make money there too. So make sure you actually run comps. You can undercut people. You can add a few dollars to other people's price. It really depends on what you guys want to do. But at the end of the day, you have to make sure that you're somewhere in like price range that seems reasonable. And finally, good description. And that requires these 2 sentences, guys. The cover condition and the condition of the text and the pages themselves. those are 2 sentences that you have to have. Other things, other sentences does help, but those are the absolute requirement for the very minimum. I don't personally do copy and paste for these. Antique books, as I've said in other videos, they all have like their own story, and since they all have their own story, every single sentence that I have to write is like so different sometimes, because like I'll have one book that has crayon, and it's like, well, at some point someone wrote crayon in that, and I might not have any other books that have crayon, so I'll have to write that out. And other times I'll have someone's signature here or here or here. So it varies so much that I have not actually been able to save any time by having a copy and paste sheet for my antique books. But with all that said, you guys can, of course, do it however you please. These are just my recommendations on the minimum requirements. You guys can, of course, do more or do less. You guys will be able to gauge how your sales do from there. But with all that said and done, I hope that really helps you guys. Be sure to check out one of my other videos. Be sure to subscribe. I love talking about my antique book business, eBay businesses in general, that sort of stuff. So if you like to learn more about that, be sure to subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.